Hey, I'm E.B. Moss, Head of Content Strategy.
And I'm Ginger Conlon, Editor-in-Chief of MediaVillage, the knowledge exchange for thought leadership by the media, marketing, and advertising industry.
And the home of advancing diversity. One of the most important issues we're all facing is making sure that the media you see and hear reflects the face and cultures of the real world. And that's why we're here, to honor those moving the needle on diversity and inclusion, making sure more ages, races, persuasions are all represented and have a voice in the content we all consume. Let's reflect the world. Let's advance diversity. This podcast is a conversation with those who are being inducted into the Advancing Diversity Hall of Honors during CES 2020 on January 8th in Las Vegas. Visit ces20.com for more information on how you can support the effort and spotlight your company and what it's doing to move from advocacy to activism.
Today, we're spotlighting Jill Baskin, Chief Marketing Officer of the Hershey Company. Jill oversees consumer insights, campaign development, design, media, digital and social marketing for some of the sweetest brands on earth.
So to speak. Hey, welcome, Jill.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, we're so happy. This is a wonderful opportunity to talk about the origins of the Hershey Company, something that is very near and dear to my heart. So I was hoping that you could share the origin story of it, which I love.
Oh, happy to do it. At Hershey, we're in our 125th year this year. We're celebrating it all year long with events at our corporate headquarters. The Hershey story is an interesting one. Milton Hershey had tried in business 4 times, failing 4 times, before he began the Hershey Company. How he began the Hershey Company is that he discovered the process to make chocolate at scale. As a result, it brought the price down dramatically, and he was able to sort of democratize chocolate so that everyone could afford to have a little bit of sweetness, not just the wealthy. So that's sort of our history, and it guides us today. Both the resilient entrepreneur that he was and our desire to bring chocolate to everyone.
I read that Milton Hershey is known for several quotes that basically all say, "One is only happy in proportion to how happy he or she makes others feel happy, and only as useful as his or her contributions help others." Knowing this, it seems like diversity and inclusion would be a core ingredient at the Hershey Company.
Well, matter of fact, it is. It's a very important pillar of our company for business reasons and for reasons, as you just said, that it really comes straight from our founder.
He sounds like a mensch. Everybody know what that means? You could Google it. Trust me, Milton Hershey, mensch. So tell us about some of your other initiatives. I'm so fascinated by the school. Can you explain how that came about and its purpose?
It's really a great story, and I wish more people knew it. So thank you for the opportunity to tell it here. Milton Hershey and his wife had no children, and as a result had no heirs. They were deciding what to do with the money that they were making from the Hershey Company, and because of the quotes that you just mentioned and how he felt about helping others, he decided to found a school for orphans. That school still runs today. It's a world-class boarding school. It serves 2,300 underserved girls and boys each year. They live at the school in family-like buildings with parents, men and women who work for the Hershey Company, who act as family heads in these households. We clothe the children. We provide an excellent education for them, and provided that they meet certain criteria, we pay for their college. So as you work at the Hershey Company every day, you feel just the positive vibes of working towards that. I can look out my window and see kids from the school playing. That's a big deal when you can actually feel what you're doing every day is making a difference.
So I'd like to jump in. That's a whole culture that you've created. And so I imagine when you're hiring, it's really important to find people who fit into that culture. So could you tell us a little bit about your hiring process and where you source from, considering that Hershey is a sweet place, but it's also not that close to, say, big cities.
Meaning Hershey, Pennsylvania. It's kind of out there, right, Jill?
Yes. Well, we are about 2 hours from Philadelphia, and you are right. We're in a more ex-suburban rural area. But we found that it really isn't all that hard to hire people into the Hershey Company. And I think one of the reasons is our story, and people do feel passionate about it. Every person through the interview process is told about the Hershey story and how our profits go into the Hershey Foundation to support the school. And I think it does make a difference. In addition, of course, we have big diversity efforts going on because we feel like it's just good business. So we're led by a female CEO. She's one of 36 female CEOs in the Fortune 500. Our board of directors is diverse. We have 5 women. We have 42% gender diversity on our board of directors. Our executive committee is 50% diverse. So we're really trying in so many ways to have an inclusive and diverse culture. And I think it starts from the top.
That's fantastic. And those numbers are really, really impressive. Jill, you work with a lot of groups. You're present in a lot of places, it sounds like, and you're really covering all of your bases. Do you think that it is hard to attract attention to possible candidates? How do you do that?
That's a great question. We do have a VP of Diversity Inclusion, AJ Patras, and she works across all these different partnerships that we have ahead of all of our recruiting events to bring out candidates. So we work, I'll just give you a few examples. We work with like the Network of Executive Women, the Society for Black Engineers, Women in Diversity, Women in Supply Chain, Women in Engineering. She works with all of those groups to get qualified candidates to know about our events. I mean, that's just a huge part right there, and to get them to want to come to our events. In advance of career fairs, on-site campus visits, we reach out to diverse student organizations. We use our business groups within Hershey to reach out to those universities and to promote the event, promote people to come to the event, to feel that they will be included in this event, that they will get an interview at this event. So we're working behind the scenes using all of our networks to bring out candidates for the events.
I can hear how everybody sounds like they just really push up their sleeves at the Hershey Company to, I always use this phrase, and I think I get it wrong, walk the talk or whatever it is, but you're doing it, and you're literally doing what we're honoring you for, but as a company, you're moving from advocacy to real activism. I love that description.
Yes, and it does take a whole company. I so appreciate that you're giving me this award or this recognition, but it's really a whole company effort. I am just one small cog in that effort.
I read that you also will go to historically Black colleges and universities and try to engage with veterans as candidates. Where else or how else do you find the middle level executives and your rank and file staff?
That's a great question. You do need to try harder, and we do. So we do interview at the consortium. That's a MBA and undergrad events for diverse students looking for intern or full-time roles. We participate in our head of HR, Kevin Walling, sits on the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, and we interview through them. We attend Roomba, which is Reaching Out MBA. It's a career event for LGBTQ students. And we also interview at MBA Vets, which is a career event for transitioning military people. And we also really work with a lot of business resource groups. So we have internal business resource groups. We call them BRGs. They're support groups for each of our diverse hiring groups. And they often are a really great source of additional new candidates.
Something else that you'd mentioned as we were talking earlier was you have a really interesting initiative that I would love to see extended all over. you have an equal pay effort underway. How does that work?
Yes, we have totally closed the gender pay gap. We review it every single year, and men and women earn exactly the same amount, a dollar for a dollar in our company.
How do you do that?
One of the ways is to measure it. I think it's probably the only way, is to measure, and then commit to getting it right. And we did that. So we have a process under which every single role is evaluated once a year, and we have a pay equity team. And if you do see on anyone in your staff that you feel is, same background, same number of years, et cetera, doing a similar or equal type of job and they aren't being paid equally, you bring it to that committee and they review the roles and they will make any adjustments necessary. And I can say personally that I brought 2 roles forward and they were changed immediately. So I think that it's, and that's done, it's not only done once a year, it's done twice a year, actually, every 6 months. So really, there shouldn't be anyone out of step on a pay gap kind of thing for more than 6 months anywhere. And I think that's remarkable. I feel really good about that.
That is absolutely remarkable. So you've got some great things going in terms of you've got the equal pay team who are watchdogs. You have the diversity teams that represent the various different diverse groups who are watchdogs. I feel like that really helps keep the momentum going for diversity and inclusion in your organization. Any other efforts that you have to keep the momentum going?
Well, I think all of the recruiting, we also require all of our outside recruiting and internal recruiting people to provide diverse slates of candidates. So that is just a everyday requirement of all of our recruiters. So every time you are trying to fill a position at whatever level, you will be given a diverse slate. You will never get a slate that is just non-diverse candidates. It just helps you find the right candidates for the role.
So I imagine then, as Chief Marketing Officer, you're trying to do the same in your casting and your creative depictions. How hard or easy is it to cast with an inclusive talent pool?
Well, it's funny that you bring that up. I actually think it's easier internally than with my external partners. I'm not even sure why that is, but I would say that in general, clients are ahead of the agency world, and that clients are more reflective of the real world, the diverse real world around us. And I'm not sure why that is, but I do know that clients can make a difference. And so I have started requiring all of my casting to be diverse and often sending it back because I feel like I do not have enough good candidates of color or of disability or et cetera. Second, I think that we can demand that we use suppliers that are diverse as well. We have a lot of purchasing power as clients, and I think it's important to use that to advance diversity.
Absolutely. So at the A&A Masters of Marketing recently, a big through line was brands finding and communicating their purpose. Have you seen more focus on this among your fellow CMOs?
That's a good question. Yes and no. I think that CMOs understand the value of purpose, but I think that for all of us, and I'm going to include myself in this, I think it's really hard how you communicate it. It has to be real. It can't be something that you've drummed up or faked up. And then you also don't want to sound too preachy or boastful. And I think that's the problem we've had at Hershey. So few people know our story, and yet we've been shy about sharing it. And I would guess that other CMOs feel the same way, ones who have a story.
Mm. Jill, you came from the agency side and worked for a slew of brands when you were at Leo Burnett. You were also at Mondelez. How do you think it's different now working on the brand side versus on the agency side in terms of impacting change and what you're able to achieve with the diversity and inclusion activism instead of advocacy?
Well, I think it's easier on the client side. It doesn't mean that I'm letting agencies off the hook. I think that they should be more active in their recruitment of diverse candidates because I think that we'll get better ideas from our agencies as a result, more actionable ideas in today's world as a result. But I am going to let them off the hook a little bit because they often reflect what their clients want. I think it is incumbent upon clients to be very clear about what they want and how much they want diversity and inclusion to be part of the message that they put out in the world. I also think it's easier from a client side because you make a lot more ads. When you're working on an agency team, you often will work on just a handful of ads all year for that particular client. Where on my client side, I will produce, I can't even count how many ads, messaging, et cetera, that will come from my brands. So I have a lot more opportunities to change opinions and to reflect diversity than many agency teams. So I think it's more incumbent upon us.
So Jill, I love that all of the things that you've been talking about in terms of the internal initiatives, the way you work with agencies. There's so much good stuff that you're doing, that the organization overall, the Hershey Company, is doing. What aspects of Hershey's D&I initiatives most inspire you personally?
It isn't that it's an initiative that inspires me. It's the company ethos that inspires me. It's all of us working together that inspires me. And I know that sounds a little Pollyanna, but I'm telling you, Hershey is the best place I've ever worked, and I've had a long career. The people at Hershey are so kind and so wonderful to work with. And I think that's partly because of all of our inclusion efforts. I really do. I think it's a way of living, a way of being, a way of behaving that includes everyone and makes everyone feel valued. And that is not true at every company.
Absolutely. And that brings me to another question. You've had so much positive impact at the Hershey Company on so many different people. Do you have a favorite story of either a student or an intern or an employee who was positively impacted by some of the diversity and inclusion, efforts, culture of the company?
Oh, man, that's a hard question.
Well, I know that the two people who you helped get equal pay, they're probably pretty happy.
Well, yes, probably. I think probably the team working directly with me that probably feels the most different, let's say, is the C-suite team that I created. So we created an in-house agency. And I think unleashing creativity within the organization and beginning to create advertising within our group energized everyone. And I think it just really made a big difference on the entire population of the company. So we have everyone coming into our team asking, oh, can you guys make me this? Can you do this? Can you do that? And it got everyone just so excited about marketing. And my team that works in-house, which is a small but mighty team, is a very diverse team. But I'm just going to say that they have energized marketing. Just a small little team has energized marketing in a way I could have never foreseen.
That's wonderful. Well, I think credit also goes to the woman who has the insights on how she hires and who she hires, who is going to reflect that kind of attitude as well. So props to you, Jill Baskin. I also wanted to ask you about how you think D&I efforts impact the bottom line of the Hershey Company.
Well, of course, that's hard to quantify, but we just feel like it is good business. I mean, that's just the case. It is about listening to the consumer, and having a diverse workforce helps you do that better. It's about turning insights into actions and decisions that reflect consumer understanding. It requires employees who relate to the consumer. So again, just good business practices. In our industry, we know women are driving about 85% of the consumer purchasing. So having that be reflected within our talent pool is obviously important. Our consumers are increasingly more multicultural and urban. So again, reflecting that is important. It's just good business. I don't know that I have dollars that I can necessarily account for, but we are growing in a very tight, consumer product goods have not been growing in general for a while. And the Hershey Company is growing. Our stock is soaring. So I would argue that those are the proof points that this is working.
I just did an interview with 3 female CMOs for our other MediaVillage podcast, Insider Insights. And I'm curious about your path to CMO as a woman. And I hate to, describe the role as one gender or another, but the truth is that we still need to up our quantity. And as I said to the women on the other podcast, it's sort of like the Ginger Rogers versus Fred Astaire line. You kind of have to do it backwards and sometimes in heels to achieve the same heights. Tell us a little bit about your path to becoming CMO, whether as female or, just as a CMO in general.
Well, I've been in the industry a long time. My path was through the agency side, which you mentioned earlier. I worked for 20 years at the Leo Burnett Company. But I went to work for Kraft after Leo Burnett, and Kraft was at the time, I haven't worked there in a long time, but was a very diverse and inclusive organization. And I worked for women in that organization. So Irene Rosenfeld ran the company, and Mary Beth West was, I believe, CMO and at the time head of growth, I believe. And now I'm working for Mary Beth again here at the Hershey Company. I have to say, I believe that I've seen a difference. Now, I haven't worked at that many companies in my career, but I do see a difference in companies that are led by women. They tend to be more inclusive, in my experience, and tend to promote and support women. So I feel that here at the Hershey Company, where I am now, with women in leadership positions like Michelle Buck, our CEO, and I just think it presents a lot of opportunities for women. If you get a chance, work for a woman.
I love it. Well, Ginger and I work pretty well side by side, so happy to have her looking across from me every day. We boost each other up all the time, so we can appreciate that. And I think that you're also continuing that. It's almost a 360 based on what you said about the school, because I think that you also source interns and things from the students at the Milton Hershey School. And so they're sort of inducted into that point of view already that's pervasive on your campus and across the company. Is that right?
What we do with the school is we're very involved with the school, and employees are encouraged to participate with the school and students in all sorts of ways. Everything from faith groups to helping out with a Halloween party or a Christmas party to reading stories to young children at the homes. So there are so many ways to be involved with the students, and I think it gives both some of our younger employees a family sort of feeling and an ability to interact with students that might feel like a brother or sister to them. And also, it just is very inspirational to know that that's what you're working for at the Hershey Company.
I think that's great. And I want to come volunteer. Do you take outsiders?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll be there because
yes, they do.
I also want to see the factory. I'm just saying. Mm-hmm. What are some of the initiatives or I should say, the celebrations that you're doing for your 125th anniversary with your Chief Marketing Officer hat on?
Oh, well, I can't take any credit for this. It's really being handled by our corporate communications team, and they've done a wonderful job. And we've done all sorts of fun things, from just having food trucks all come in. We went out and handed out chocolate bars around the world. We've done so many different things, but it's been a really fun time. And you sort of never know when one's going to pop up that they're going to do something during the year for us.
Well, I'm going to be on the lookout for the free samples everywhere I go.
And we actually have a nice full bag of kisses sitting on our desk at work. So we'll be digging into those when we get back. So,
eat up, ladies.
It's the other thing, women and chocolate. That's a beautiful thing.
So, Jill, thank you so much for all of the great insight today. I do want to close with one final question. The Hershey Company is doing so much in terms of diversity and inclusion. It's just like, as you said, it's just woven into the fabric of your organization. And you're also personally doing so much in terms of making sure that it's reflective on your team, that it's reflected in your agencies and your external communications. I'm sure you have tons of advice, but what is one piece of advice that you would give to another chief marketer who is trying to really get diversity and inclusion woven into their marketing?
Speak up. So I think, and maybe it's because I'm an older CMO, I think that often you are scared to address the elephant in the room or to address an inequity. And I have never found that in my career, even when I've been scared to do it, that if I spoke up, that something didn't get changed and that there were no ramifications to it. I think you have an awesome pulpit as a CMO to speak up on behalf of diversity, the importance of diversity, and fixing any problems that exist. And I would just tell people, speak up, take action. It just can never hurt you. It can only help you.
Jill Baskin, thank you so much. Those were perfect words for us to conclude on and really embody exactly why you're being inducted into the Advancing Diversity Hall of Honors. We're going to look forward to seeing you there. Everyone can read about Jill Baskin on MediaVillage.com and be inspired for all that you do for the Hershey Company and the world. Thank you.
Thank you.